Hey YouTube. I've always wanted to let everyone know that prejudice exists in the Kingdom Hall. It exists in the society, and I mean, how could it not with like mostly all white men running the thing? But anyways, that's beside the point. I'm talking about where I grew up. Where I grew up, it's a small redneck cow town, 99.99% white people. And we were the only black family that lived in the main part of town. There was a couple of other families that lived out in the boonies, but we lived in the main part of town and still have property there. Anyway, it was very cruel growing up. The people were very cruel to us children, and they didn't really treat my parents that great. Of course, my dad was from the South, in Louisiana, and so he was very used to prejudice, and he did not let it bother him. However, he did talk about it and was very aware that it was prevalent in the congregation that we were in. I remember at one point I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, and my mother told me about an elder that was telling someone else that he did not want his daughter to marry a Smoky. Now, this was about, oh gosh, probably almost 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And now all those people that were prejudiced, or, well, they probably still are, but the ones that treated us badly, it's not really any different now. It's just that they're old, and instead of using their energy on being blatantly prejudiced, now they use their energy to breathe because they're getting old. Obviously, I have some resentment, and I don't appreciate the fact that my questions about racism in the Kingdom Hall were overlooked, and I was told basically that I had to put up with that, and that it was a perfect organization run by imperfect men, which still to this day makes absolutely no sense to me. But I still couldn't understand why people who proclaim to be lovers of God and Jesus and of people would have treated us like that. And I want everyone to know that that did happen, and it was not fun growing up, not only a Jehovah's Witness, but a black Jehovah's Witness in an all-white town. And it's still pretty much that way. My family is still the only black family that goes to that Kingdom Hall. I don't go anywhere more, but my mother, she still goes. It was about being cast out and overlooked. Basically, we were just almost non-existent when it came to any functions that the witnesses had for children. And there were a lot of things that they did, but they only invited the elite ones. And, you know, we lived in a house, a nice house. We didn't live in a trailer or anything. We didn't stink. We had a nice car. The whole 9 yards. But the only thing is that we just weren't the right skin color, even for the people at the Kingdom Hall. And I hated that. I hated going to the meetings, knowing that none of those little girls there wanted to be friends with me. They would stand over in their own little corners, and for years, I never really associated with any of them unless I was forced to, and the only times I would really be forced to was when I had to go out in service. And then they would talk about all the little fun things they were going to do, and of course, I wasn't going to be invited to those, and that's fine. I don't really care that I wasn't invited to those little things. I just want you to know that racism exists in the Kingdom Hall, and if you are feeling that you might be experiencing racism in the Kingdom Hall, well, don't ignore that. Confront someone, because you know what? That's supposed to be the refuge, isn't it? You don't want to go to a refuge just to find out that you're not really welcome there because you're not the right skin color to fit into the refuge. It's really ridiculous, but it does happen. It does exist. And like I said, if you are feeling that you're experiencing racism, then let it be known, or just leave. Because you know what? Once you find out what the Watchtower is really about, you're going to leave anyways if you're a seeker of the truth.